I'm going to die. The water is steady rising in the attic, ma'am. And I'm going to drown in the attic.
Saturday marks 10 years since Hurricane Katrina made landfall on the Gulf Coast. The massive hurricane killed more than 1,800 people, left much of the region in ruins, and flooded the city of New Orleans.
Over the last 10 years, the city of New Orleans has literally been to hell and back.
But beyond the lives lost and the physical damage done to the Gulf Coast, Hurricane Katrina also caused a lot of mental and emotional damage to the families who were forced from their homes. And for many of them, those issues linger to this day as a reminder of the tragedy. David Abramson, the director of the program on Population Recovery and Resiliency at NYU, studied more than 1,000 Katrina families.
You have the largest displacement of a population in this country since the Dust Bowl, and certainly the largest that happened in such a compressed time.
More than 1 million people were evacuated from the Gulf Coast because of Hurricane Katrina. Those that could stayed with relatives in other parts of the country or moved from the region entirely. But more than 100,000 families were put up in FEMA trailers, which gave them shelter, but also gave them a lot of problems.
FEMA would say, well, we're going to give you another month, another 2 months, another 3 months. But that uncertainty was sort of an unending uncertainty.
No matter where they ended up staying, the families displaced by Katrina had some serious adjusting to do. Parents worried about where to live, how to put food on the table, and whether or not they'd ever be able to return to the lives they once had. That kind of uncertainty caused long-lasting mental health issues like anxiety and depression in many Abramson studied.
The adults had astonishingly high proportion of them were experiencing mental health distress. Initially, it was somewhere around 50 or 60%. And then over time, it slowly receded, but it only receded down to about 40% at the 5-year mark.
5 years after Katrina, 40% of the families Abramson followed were still living in unstable housing, which made other aspects of their lives difficult as well.
It's hard for them to find permanent jobs, a permanent place, to develop a sense of community. They often felt like they weren't really engaged with the world around them.
But adults weren't the only ones struggling to adjust to new circumstances. Kids were also having problems fitting into their new communities, although parents weren't always aware of them.
The children are pretty amazing. They see how tough it is for the adults, and sometimes they actually try to protect them.
Over 7 years, Alice Fothergill tracked the lives of hundreds of kids adjusting to new situations and co-wrote Children of Katrina. A lot of the kids tried to adjust to new schools, but it wasn't easy.
The New Orleans children got bullied quite a bit when they entered new schools, and there was a real stereotype, a real misperception about what kids from New Orleans would be. And they were, in some cases, not all cases, but in some cases were treated really poorly.
That kind of bullying, in addition to the uncertainty about where their family would be living, made a lot of families hold kids back, and a lot of teenagers dropped out entirely.
Missing school had very serious consequences, very serious consequences. So we had quite a few children, and a lot of them actually missed schooling. In fact, I don't know if there was a child that didn't miss some schooling, but we had some that missed a year and some that missed 2 years.
Now, 10 years after Katrina, much of the physical damage has been repaired. But for the families displaced by Katrina, the emotional damage is still a part of their daily lives. A lot could have been done to make their lives more stable in the months and years after Katrina, but now the help they need comes in the form of job and educational support.
Giving them options for getting into colleges, or giving them scholarship opportunities that would help them either get into career paths or educational paths that might have been closed to them.
With the stability that these kinds of programs bring, the victims of Hurricane Katrina might finally be able to move on and leave the pain and uncertainty of Katrina behind them.